What if fear isn't your enemy but your greatest teacher? Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words, written by one of history's most renowned Stoic philosophers, remind us that fear doesn't have to control us. Instead, it can be a doorway to growth, resilience, and deeper self-understanding. But how do we shift from seeing fear as something to avoid to embracing it as a tool for transformation? That's exactly what we're going to explore today. In this video, we'll dive into unconventional Stoic strategies for facing your fears with courage and clarity. We'll uncover how the Stoics approached uncertainty, not as a threat, but as an opportunity to practice virtues like acceptance, resilience, and cognitive reframing. These principles, rooted in ancient wisdom, are more relevant than ever in our fast-paced, unpredictable world. Whether you're grappling with personal challenges, professional risks, or the uncertainties of life itself, the tools we'll discuss will help you navigate fear with purpose and poise. So, are you ready to discover how Stoic courage can empower you to embrace uncertainty and turn fear into your ally? Let's begin this journey together. Fear, at its core, is a natural response to the unknown, a signal that something important is at stake. But here's the Stoic twist: fear isn't inherently bad. In fact, the Stoics saw it as a powerful invitation to practice virtue. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This idea flips the script on fear. Instead of seeing it as something to avoid or suppress, the Stoics saw it as a chance to exercise courage, resilience, and self-mastery. Fear, in their view, wasn't the enemy, it was the training ground. Take Seneca, for example. When the Roman Emperor Nero exiled him to the remote island of Corsica, he could have let fear consume him. Instead, he used that time to reflect, write, and deepen his understanding of Stoic philosophy. What could have been a period of despair became a transformative chapter in his life. Seneca didn't just endure his exile, he thrived in it, turning fear into fuel for personal growth. His story reminds us that fear doesn't define us, how we respond to it does. So, what about you? What fears are you facing right now? Maybe it's the uncertainty of a career change, the vulnerability of a new relationship, or even the everyday anxieties that creep into your mind. What if, instead of resisting those fears, you saw them as opportunities to grow? What if you could approach them not with dread but with curiosity, asking yourself, "What can this teach me?" That's the Stoic invitation, to reframe fear as a doorway, not a dead end. The Stoics teach us that fear is often rooted in our perceptions, not reality. This is where the concept of cognitive detachment comes into play, a powerful tool for separating our emotions from the judgments we attach to them. By stepping back and observing our fears without letting them consume us, we gain the clarity to see them for what they truly are: mental constructs, not immutable truths. Seneca captured this idea perfectly when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen are often far more terrifying than what actually happens. Think about something like public speaking anxiety. For many, the fear isn't just about standing in front of a crowd, it's about the imagined consequences of failure. What if I stumble over my words? What if people judge me? These thoughts can spiral out of control, creating a storm of fear that feels unmanageable. But here's the thing, those fears are projections, not guarantees. Cognitive detachment allows us to pause and ask, is this fear based on facts, or is it fueled by my imagination? When we detach from the emotional weight of those judgments, we can approach the situation with a calmer, more grounded mindset. This isn't about suppressing fear or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about creating a space between you and the emotion, giving yourself room to respond rather than react. The Stoics believed that by practicing this kind of detachment, we could cultivate a sense of inner freedom, a freedom that comes from realizing we don't have to be ruled by our fears. So, what about you? What fears in your life feel bigger because your imagination has taken the wheel? What would it look like to step back, observe those fears, and see them for what they truly are? This is the power of cognitive detachment. It doesn't eliminate fear, but it gives us the tools to face it with wisdom and courage. What if you could prepare for your fears before they ever happened? The Stoics had a practice for exactly that, a tool called Premeditatio malorum, or the Premeditation of Evils. At first glance, it might sound pessimistic, but it's quite the opposite. This practice isn't about dwelling on the worst-case scenarios. It's about building resilience by mentally preparing for life's uncertainties. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it this way: begin each day by telling yourself, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." Sounds intense, right? But here's the wisdom behind it. By anticipating challenges, we strip them of their power to shock or derail us. Instead of being caught off guard, we're ready to respond with calm and clarity. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're preparing for a job interview. You've done your research, polished your resume, and practiced your answers. But what if, despite all that, things don't go as planned? What if the interviewer is distracted, or you blank on a question, or you don't get the job? These are real possibilities, and they can stir up a lot of fear and anxiety. But here's where Premeditatio malorum comes in. By visualizing these scenarios ahead of time, not to dwell on them, but to prepare for them, you're less likely to be thrown off balance if they happen. You've already thought through how you'd respond, which means you can approach the situation with confidence, no matter what unfolds. This practice isn't about expecting the worst, it's about being ready for anything. It's like carrying an umbrella on a cloudy day. You're not guaranteeing it will rain, but if it does, you're prepared. The Stoics believed that by mentally rehearsing potential challenges, we could face them with greater equanimity. Fear loses its grip when we've already walked through the possibilities in our minds. So, how could this apply to your life? What fears or uncertainties are you facing right now? How might anticipating those challenges, not fearing them but preparing for them, help you feel more grounded and in control? Premeditatio malorum is a powerful reminder that fear often stems from the unknown. When we shine a light on those uncertainties, they become less intimidating. We realize that even in the face of adversity, we have the tools to navigate it. This practice doesn't just build resilience, it cultivates a sense of inner strength that allows us to face life's unpredictability with courage and grace. So the next time you feel fear creeping in, try this Stoic approach. Visualize the challenge, prepare for it, and remind yourself, you've got this. The Stoics remind us that fear often stems from trying to control the uncontrollable. It's a natural human tendency to want to manage every detail of our lives, but the reality is that much of what happens around us lies beyond our power. This is where the Stoic dichotomy of control comes in, a simple yet profound principle that divides the world into two categories: what we can control and what we cannot. Epictetus put it plainly: some things are in our control and others are not. By focusing our energy only on what's within our control, we free ourselves from the burden of unnecessary anxiety and fear. Let's take something as basic as the weather. Imagine planning an outdoor event weeks in advance. You can check the forecast, prepare tents, and have a backup plan, but ultimately, you can't control whether it rains or shines. Worrying about it won't change the outcome. It will only drain your mental energy. The Stoic approach: accept what you can't control and focus on what you can, like how you'll adapt if the weather doesn't cooperate. This shift in mindset doesn't just reduce fear, it empowers you to act with clarity and purpose, no matter the circumstances. This principle applies to so much more than the weather. Think about the fears that keep you up at night. Maybe it's the outcome of a job interview, the state of the economy, or even how others perceive you. The truth is, none of these are fully within your control. What is within your control is how you prepare, how you respond, and how you choose to move forward. By letting go of the need to control every outcome, you create space for peace and resilience. Fear loses its grip when you stop trying to hold onto the things you can't change. So, what fears could you release by focusing only on what's within your control? Perhaps it's the anxiety of not being liked by everyone or the stress of trying to predict the future. The Stoic Dichotomy of Control invites you to redirect your attention to what truly matters: your thoughts, your actions, and your choices. These are the areas where you have real power, and they're also the keys to building a life of courage and calm. This isn't about giving up or being passive, it's about channeling your energy wisely. When you stop wasting effort on the uncontrollable, you unlock the ability to face challenges with a clear mind and a steady heart. The next time fear starts to creep in, ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is no, take a deep breath and let it go. If the answer is yes, take action with confidence. This simple yet transformative practice is the essence of Stoic wisdom, and it's a tool you can use to navigate fear with grace and strength. What if you could love your fears instead of fighting them? This is the heart of Amma, Fati, the Stoic practice of loving fate. It's not about passively accepting life's challenges, but actively embracing them as opportunities for growth. Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoic philosophy, captured this idea beautifully. Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do. At first glance, this might sound counterintuitive. Why would anyone wish for hardship or uncertainty? But here's the profound truth beneath the surface. When we stop resisting what life throws at us and instead embrace it, we unlock a deeper sense of peace and purpose. Take Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. His life was filled with immense responsibility, constant political turmoil, and personal loss. Yet he didn't resent his fate, he embraced it. In his writings, he often reflected on the idea that every challenge was an opportunity to practice virtue. Whether it was leading an empire or facing his own mortality, Marcus saw each moment as a gift, a chance to live with integrity, courage, and wisdom. His example shows us that Amma, Fati isn't about ignoring fear or pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding meaning in the imperfect, the uncertain, and even the painful. So, how does this apply to fear? When we practice Amma, Fati, we stop seeing fear as something to avoid or conquer. Instead, we see it as a teacher, a guide that points us toward growth. Imagine you're facing a fear of failure. Instead of dreading it, what if you welcomed it? What if you saw failure not as an end, but as a stepping stone to something greater? This shift in perspective doesn't make fear disappear, but it changes how you relate to it. Fear becomes less of a threat and more of a partner in your journey toward resilience and self-discovery. This mindset doesn't come naturally, it takes practice. Start by reframing your fears as opportunities. Ask yourself, what can this teach me, or how can this help me grow? When you approach fear with curiosity instead of resistance, you begin to see it in a new light. It's no longer an obstacle, it's a catalyst, and this is the essence of Amma, Fati. It transforms fear from something that holds you back into something that propels you forward. How could loving your fate change your relationship with fear? Think about the fears that weigh on you, whether it's the fear of rejection, change, or the unknown. What if, instead of fighting them, you welcomed them as part of your story? What if you trusted that even in the face of fear, you have the strength to grow, adapt, and thrive? This is the invitation of Amma Fati, to embrace life fully, not in spite of its challenges, but because of them. When you love your fate, fear loses its power to paralyze you. It becomes just another part of the journey, a journey you're fully equipped to navigate. How often does fear pull you into the future or trap you in the past? It's easy to get caught up in what-ifs or replay old mistakes, but the Stoics remind us that fear thrives when we're not rooted in the present. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow." In other words, when we're constantly looking ahead or dwelling on what's already happened, we miss the power of the here and now, the only moment where we can truly act. Presence, in the Stoic sense, is about anchoring ourselves in reality where fear has far less room to grow. Think about it, fear often stems from imagined scenarios. We worry about things that haven't happened yet or replay situations that are already over. But the present moment, it's where life actually unfolds. When we're fully present, we're not distracted by the ghosts of the past or the uncertainties of the future. We're grounded in what's real, and that grounding gives us the clarity to face fear head-on. Imagine you're about to give a presentation. Your mind might race with thoughts like, what if I forget my lines? Or what if they don't like me? But in the present moment, none of that has happened yet. You're simply standing there, breathing, ready to begin. That's where your power lies. Here's where mindfulness comes in, a practical tool for cultivating presence. Mindfulness isn't just about meditation. It's about paying attention to the here and now, moment by moment. Let's say you're in the middle of a stressful situation, like a difficult conversation. Instead of getting lost in worries about how it might end, you focus on the words being spoken, the tone of your voice, and the sensations in your body. This shift in focus doesn't eliminate the stress, but it helps you respond rather than react. You're no longer at the mercy of your fears. You're actively engaging with reality. The Stoics believed that presence was a form of freedom. When we're fully in the moment, we're not weighed down by regrets or anxieties. We're free to act with intention and clarity. This doesn't mean ignoring the future or forgetting the past. It means not letting them dictate our emotions. So, how could staying present help you face your fears? Maybe it's the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. When you bring your attention back to the present, you realize that most of what you're afraid of hasn't happened yet and may never happen. You're left with the truth of the moment, and that truth is often far less intimidating than the stories we tell ourselves. Presence isn't just a Stoic idea, it's a universal tool for navigating life's challenges. It's about reclaiming your attention and directing it toward what's real and actionable. When you're present, fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its grip. You're no longer trapped in the hypothetical. You're free to engage with life as it is, not as you fear it might be. So, the next time fear starts to pull you into the future or drag you into the past, take a deep breath. Bring yourself back to the present, because right here, right now, you have everything you need to face whatever comes your way. Stoics see fear as a mirror, reflecting what we value most. It's not just an emotion to avoid, it's a signal pointing us toward what truly matters. Think about it. When you feel fear, it's often tied to something you care about deeply. Fear of failure might reveal your passion for success. Fear of rejection might highlight your desire for connection. Fear of the unknown might show your commitment to stability. In this way, fear becomes a teacher, showing us where we're invested and where we have room to grow. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: difficulties are things that show what men are. In other words, fear and challenges don't define us, they reveal us. They show us our strengths, our vulnerabilities, and the areas where we need to stretch. Take the modern example of someone afraid of public speaking. That fear might feel overwhelming, but it also points to something important. the desire to communicate effectively, to connect with others, or to share ideas that matter. Instead of seeing the fear as a barrier, we can see it as a signpost guiding us toward growth and self-improvement. This perspective shifts how we relate to fear. It's no longer something to run from, it's an opportunity to learn. When we reframe fear as a teacher, we start to ask different questions. Instead of, how can I avoid this? We ask, what can this teach me? Or, what does this fear reveal about what I value? These questions open the door to self-awareness and empowerment. Fear stops being the enemy and becomes a guide, helping us understand ourselves and our priorities more deeply. So, what lessons could your fears be trying to teach you? Maybe the fear of failure is nudging you to take risks and embrace growth. Maybe the fear of rejection is encouraging you to build resilience and authenticity. Or maybe the fear of uncertainty is inviting you to practice trust and adaptability. Each fear holds a lesson, and each lesson is an opportunity to become a stronger, wiser version of yourself. The Stoic approach doesn't promise to eliminate fear. It promises to help us use it. By seeing fear as a mirror, we can reflect on what it shows us and use that insight to move forward with courage and clarity. So the next time fear arises, don't push it away. Look at it, listen to it. What is it trying to tell you? That's where the growth happens, not in avoiding the fear, but in learning from it. What if courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it? This is the Stoic perspective, one that redefines what it means to face fear. Instead of waiting for fear to disappear before taking action, the Stoics believed in moving forward with virtue as their guide. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be." Be one. This isn't just a call to action. It's a reminder that virtue isn't something we debate. It's something we live. And when we live virtuously, fear loses its power to paralyze us. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance as the foundation for a good life. Each of these virtues plays a crucial role in how we respond to fear. Wisdom helps us see fear clearly, separating fact from fiction. Courage gives us the strength to act even when we're afraid. Justice reminds us to consider others, shifting our focus from self-preservation to the greater good. And temperance keeps our emotions in check, preventing fear from spiraling out of control. Together, these virtues form a framework for facing fear with clarity and purpose. Take Cato the Younger, a Stoic philosopher and Roman statesman, as an example. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, effectively declaring war on the Roman Republic, Cato stood firm in his principles. He didn't let fear of Caesar's growing power dictate his actions. Instead, he acted with courage and justice, defending the values he believed in, even when the odds were against him. Cato's defiance wasn't reckless, it was rooted in virtue. His story shows us that fear doesn't have to dictate our choices. When we act from a place of virtue, we can face even the most daunting challenges with integrity and resolve. But how does this apply to everyday fears? Let's say you're afraid of speaking up in a meeting because you worry about being judged. Wisdom helps you recognize that this fear is often exaggerated. People are rarely as critical as we imagine. Courage gives you the push to share your ideas despite the discomfort. Justice reminds you that your voice matters, not just for your sake, but for the team's success. And temperance keeps your emotions balanced, so you don't overthink or second-guess yourself. Together, these virtues transform fear from a barrier into an opportunity to grow and contribute. Living virtuously doesn't mean you'll never feel fear. It means you'll have the tools to face it with intention and strength. So, how could embracing these virtues help you confront your fears? Imagine approaching a difficult conversation, a career risk, or even a personal setback with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance as your guides. What would that look like? How would it change the way you respond to uncertainty or adversity? The Stoic approach to fear isn't about eliminating it, it's about rising above it. When we act with virtue, we don't just overcome fear, we become the kind of person who can face it with grace and resilience. This is the power of living virtuously. It doesn't just help us cope with fear, it transforms us in the process. So the next time fear arises, ask yourself, what would it look like to face this with wisdom, with courage, with justice and temperance? The answers might just surprise you and change the way you see fear forever. The Stoics teach us that clinging to outcomes fuels fear. It's a simple yet profound truth. When we attach our sense of security or happiness to specific results, we set ourselves up for anxiety. Why? Because outcomes are never fully within our control. Seneca put it this way: we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. In other words, the fear of what might happen often overshadows the reality of what does happen. But what if we could let go of that need to control every outcome? What if we could find peace not in the results but in the process itself? This is where the Stoic art of letting go comes in. It's not about apathy or giving up. It's about releasing the grip of fear by detaching from the need for a specific result. Think of it like holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more slips through your fingers. But if you open your hand, the sand stays, not because you're forcing it, but because you've allowed it to be. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to focus on what you can control, your effort, your intention, and your mindset. Take perfectionism, for example. Many of us fear failure because we're attached to the idea of getting everything right. But what if, instead of striving for perfection, we aimed for progress? What if we let go of the need to control every detail and trusted the process? A student studying for an exam might obsess over getting a perfect score, fearing anything less will mean they've failed. But the Stoic approach would be to focus on the effort, studying diligently, understanding the material, and doing their best while letting go of the outcome. This shift doesn't just reduce fear, it creates space for growth, resilience, and even joy in the journey. So, what outcomes could you release to reduce your fears? Maybe it's the fear of not meeting others' expectations or the anxiety of not achieving a specific goal. What if, instead of clinging to those outcomes, you focused on the steps you can take today? What if you trusted that by doing your best, you're already enough? This is the power of letting go. It doesn't eliminate fear, but it changes how you carry it. Fear becomes lighter, less overwhelming when you stop tying it to results you can't control. The Stoic art of letting go isn't about passivity, it's about active acceptance. It's about recognizing that life is unpredictable, and that's okay. When we release our grip on outcomes, we free ourselves to engage fully with the present moment. We stop fearing what might happen and start embracing what is happening. This mindset doesn't just reduce fear, it transforms it into an opportunity to live with greater freedom, authenticity, and peace. So, where in your life could you practice letting go? What could you release to make room for courage, clarity, and calm? The answer might just change the way you face fear forever. What if your fears are actually preparing you for greater challenges? The Stoics had a radical perspective on adversity. They saw it not as a punishment or a curse, but as a training ground for resilience. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, put it bluntly: "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." Think about that for a moment. Adversity, in the Stoic view, isn't something to avoid, it's something to embrace. Why? Because it's through facing challenges that we grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. Fear, in this sense, isn't just an obstacle, it's a teacher preparing us for the trials that lie ahead. Take Seneca, for example. During the reign of the infamous Roman Emperor Nero, Seneca faced immense political and personal turmoil. He was exiled, accused of conspiracy, and ultimately ordered to take his own life. Yet, throughout it all, he wrote some of the most profound works on Stoic philosophy. His writings weren't born out of comfort or ease, they were forged in the fires of adversity. Seneca didn't crumble under the weight of his fears. He used them to deepen his understanding of life, resilience, and the human spirit. His story is a testament to the Stoic belief that adversity doesn't break us, it shapes us. So, how does this apply to your life? When you face fear, whether it's the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown, you're not just enduring a difficult moment. You're building resilience. Every time you step into discomfort, you're strengthening your ability to handle whatever comes next. It's like lifting weights. The resistance isn't there to hurt you, it's there to make you stronger. Fear in this context becomes a form of mental and emotional training. It's preparing you for the bigger challenges that life will inevitably throw your way. But here's the key: resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about growing forward. The Stoics believed that adversity reveals our true character and potential. When we face fear head-on, we discover strengths we didn't know we had. We learn to adapt, to persevere, and to find meaning even in the most difficult circumstances. This is why the Stoics didn't shy away from challenges. They welcomed them as opportunities to practice virtue and build resilience. Now, think about your own fears. How could they be shaping your resilience? Maybe the fear of failure is teaching you to take risks and embrace growth. Maybe the fear of rejection is helping you build confidence and authenticity. Or maybe the fear of the unknown is pushing you to trust yourself and your ability to navigate uncertainty. Each fear, when faced with courage, becomes a stepping stone toward greater resilience. And the more resilient you become, the less power fear has over you. Imagine a future version of yourself, someone who's faced countless fears and come out stronger on the other side. That version of you doesn't just endure adversity, they thrive in it. They've learned to see fear not as a threat but as a partner in their growth. This is the Stoic invitation: to embrace fear as a teacher, to face adversity with courage, and to let every challenge shape you into a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of yourself. So the next time fear arises, ask yourself, how is this preparing me for what's next? The answer might just change the way you see fear and yourself forever. Stoics use negative visualization not to dwell on fear but to disarm it. This practice, known as premeditatio malorum, might sound counterintuitive at first. Why would anyone intentionally imagine worst-case scenarios? But here's the twist: it's not about feeding fear, it's about taking away its power. Seneca put it perfectly: he who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. By mentally preparing for life's uncertainties, we strip fear of its ability to catch us off guard. It's like shining a light into a dark room. The shadows shrink, and what once seemed intimidating becomes manageable. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're worried about financial instability. The fear of losing your job or struggling to make ends meet can feel overwhelming, especially when the future feels uncertain. Negative visualization invites you to step into that fear, not to dwell on it, but to prepare for it. What would you do if the worst happened? How would you adapt? By visualizing these scenarios, you're not just confronting your fears, you're creating a mental game plan. You might realize, for instance, that you have skills you could leverage, a support network you could rely on, or even a side hustle you could pursue. Suddenly, the fear of financial instability feels less like a looming threat and more like a challenge you're ready to face. This practice doesn't just prepare us for the worst, it also helps us appreciate what we have. When we imagine losing something, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even our health, we gain a deeper sense of gratitude for what we currently possess. It's a reminder that nothing is permanent, and that awareness can inspire us to live more fully in the present. The Stoics believed that by embracing the impermanence of life, we could find greater peace and resilience. Negative visualization, then, isn't just a tool for reducing fear, it's a pathway to living with more intention and gratitude. So, how could this practice help you face your fears? What if, instead of avoiding the things that scare you, you leaned into them, not to dwell on the negative, but to prepare and grow? Visualizing the worst doesn't mean expecting it to happen. It means being ready if it does, and in that readiness, you'll find a sense of empowerment that fear can't shake. The next time fear starts to creep in, try this Stoic approach. Imagine the worst, prepare for it, and then remind yourself, you've got this. Fear might still be there, but it won't have the same hold on you. And that's where true courage begins. What if certainty is just an illusion we cling to for comfort? The Stoics understood something profound about the human condition. We often fear uncertainty because we crave control. But here's the truth: certainty is rarely as solid as we think it is. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: the universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it. In other words, life is inherently unpredictable, and our attempts to cling to stability often create more fear than they alleviate. The Stoic challenge: to let go of the illusion of certainty and embrace the fluid nature of existence. When we do, fear loses its grip and we find a deeper sense of freedom. Think about how this plays out in modern life. Take career transitions, for example. Many of us fear leaving a stable job, even if we're unhappy, because the unknown feels terrifying. What if the next role doesn't work out? What if we fail? But here's the thing: that stability we cling to is often an illusion. Industries shift, companies restructure, and roles evolve. The Stoic approach would be to recognize that no job is truly secure, not because of pessimism, but because change is the only constant. When we accept this reality, we can approach career transitions not with dread, but with curiosity and adaptability. Instead of fearing the unknown, we can see it as an opportunity to grow, learn, and explore new possibilities. This mindset isn't just about careers, it's about life itself. The Stoics believed that uncertainty isn't something to resist, it's something to embrace. Why? Because it's in the unknown that we find the space to practice virtues like courage, resilience, and adaptability. When we stop trying to control every outcome, we open ourselves to the richness of life's unpredictability. Imagine planning a vacation down to the smallest detail, only to have it disrupted by a sudden storm. You could spend the trip frustrated, clinging to the plan that didn't work out, or you could embrace the unexpected, finding joy in the unplanned moments. The Stoic approach teaches us to choose the latter, not just in travel, but in everything. So, how could accepting uncertainty help you face your fears? Maybe it's the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, or even the fear of the unknown. When we stop seeing uncertainty as a threat and start seeing it as a natural part of life, we can approach these fears with a different mindset. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" we can ask, "What if this leads to something I never imagined?" This shift doesn't eliminate fear, but it changes how we relate to it. Uncertainty becomes less of a burden and more of an adventure, a chance to explore, grow, and discover what we're truly capable of. The Stoics remind us that life is not a fixed path but a flowing river. When we try to stand still, we only exhaust ourselves fighting the current. But when we learn to move with it, we find a sense of ease and freedom. Embracing uncertainty isn't about giving up control. It's about recognizing where our power truly lies, not in controlling the river, but in navigating it with wisdom and grace. So the next time fear of the unknown arises, ask yourself, what if uncertainty isn't the enemy? What if it's the very thing that sets you free? Stoics see failure not as a defeat but as a lesson, a natural and inevitable part of life's journey. This perspective might sound counterintuitive in a world that often equates failure with shame or inadequacy, but the Stoics offer a refreshing alternative. They remind us that failure isn't the end of the road. It's a stepping stone to growth, resilience, and self-discovery. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, failure itself isn't the problem, it's how we interpret and respond to it that shapes our experience. This mindset doesn't just reduce the fear of failure, it transforms failure into a powerful teacher. Consider the story of Zeno, the founder of Stoicism. His journey into philosophy began with what most would consider a catastrophic failure, a shipwreck that left him stranded in Athens, stripped of his wealth and possessions. But instead of despairing, Zeno saw this as an opportunity. He began studying philosophy, eventually developing the principles of Stoicism that would guide countless generations. What could have been a moment of defeat became the foundation of one of the most influential schools of thought in history. Zeno's story illustrates the Stoic truth that failure isn't something to fear, it's something to learn from, something that can redirect us toward a more meaningful path. So, how does this apply to us today? Think about the times you've held back because of the fear of failure. Maybe it was avoiding a new challenge, staying in a comfortable but unfulfilling situation, or hesitating to pursue a dream. Now imagine reframing failure as a teacher rather than a threat. What if every setback was an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow? This shift in mindset doesn't just reduce fear, it empowers us to take risks and embrace life's uncertainties with courage and curiosity. The Stoic approach to failure isn't about dismissing the pain or disappointment it can bring. It's about recognizing that failure is a universal experience, one that connects us to our shared humanity. When we stop seeing failure as a reflection of our worth and start seeing it as a natural part of growth, we free ourselves from the paralyzing grip of fear. This doesn't mean failure becomes easy or painless, it means we're no longer defined by it. Instead, we're shaped by how we rise, learn, and move forward. So, how could reframing failure help you face your fears? What if the next time you stumbled or fell short, you asked yourself, "What can this teach me?" Or, "How can this help me grow?" These questions don't erase the sting of failure, but they shift the narrative. Failure becomes less of a roadblock and more of a compass, guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and your potential. This is the Stoic invitation, to see failure not as an enemy but as an ally, one that helps you build resilience, courage, and a life of meaning. What if facing your fears didn't have to be a solo journey? The Stoics understood something profound. Courage isn't just an individual pursuit, it's often strengthened through connection. As Seneca wisely said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a reminder that we're not meant to navigate life's challenges alone. Community, in the Stoic sense, is more than a support system, it's a source of shared wisdom, perspective, and strength. So, how can others help us face our fears with courage? The answer lies in the power of connection, both ancient and modern. In Stoic philosophy, community wasn't just a convenience, it was a cornerstone of growth. Stoic gatherings, known as scholae, were spaces where individuals came together to discuss philosophy, share experiences, and offer guidance. These weren't just intellectual debates, they were opportunities to practice virtues like humility, empathy, and resilience in the company of others. Imagine sitting in a room surrounded by people who weren't there to judge your fears, but to help you understand and overcome them. That's the kind of environment the Stoics cultivated, one where fear wasn't hidden or shamed, but met with collective wisdom and encouragement. Fast forward to today, and the role of community in facing fear remains just as vital. Think about mentorship, for example. A mentor doesn't just offer advice, they provide perspective, drawing from their own experiences to help you see your fears in a new light. They might share stories of their own struggles, reminding you that fear is universal and that overcoming it is possible. In this way, mentorship echoes the Stoic tradition of shared wisdom, where knowledge and courage are passed from one generation to the next. The presence of someone who believes in you can be a powerful antidote to fear, helping you see possibilities where you once saw only obstacles. But community doesn't have to come in the form of formal mentorship. It can be as simple as a friend who listens without judgment, a family member who offers encouragement, or even a like-minded group of people who share your values and goals. The key is to surround yourself with those who uplift and challenge you, who help you see your fears not as insurmountable walls but as opportunities for growth. As Seneca put it, the people we spend time with shape who we become. So, who in your life helps you face your fears, and how can you cultivate more of those meaningful connections? The Stoic approach to community isn't just about leaning on others, it's also about giving back. When we share our own experiences and insights, we contribute to the collective strength of those around us. This reciprocal dynamic creates a cycle of courage, where fear is met not with isolation but with solidarity. It's a reminder that we're all in this together, that no matter how personal our fears may feel, we're never truly alone in facing them. So, how can you build or strengthen your own Stoic-inspired community? Start by seeking out those who inspire you, challenge you, and remind you of your potential. And don't forget to be that person for others too. When we come together to face our fears, we don't just overcome them, we transform them into stepping stones for collective growth. In the end, fear may be personal, but courage is communal, and that's a truth worth embracing. The Stoics had a secret weapon for facing fear, one that's as accessible today as it was 2,000 years ago: journaling. For them, writing wasn't just a way to record thoughts, it was a practice for processing emotions, untangling fears, and gaining clarity. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoic philosophers, used journaling to reflect on his challenges, writing in his personal notes, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that the answers we seek often lie not in the chaos of the external world, but in the quiet space of our own minds. Journaling, in the Stoic sense, is about turning inward to find strength, perspective, and peace. So, how does writing help us confront fear? Think of it like this: fear often feels like a tangled knot of emotions and thoughts. When we put pen to paper, we begin to unravel that knot, one strand at a time. Writing forces us to slow down, to articulate what we're feeling, and to examine our fears from a place of calm rather than panic. It's like holding up a mirror to our minds. Suddenly, the vague, overwhelming anxieties become clearer, more manageable. This process doesn't just help us understand our fears, it gives us the tools to face them. Take, for example, a difficult decision you're facing. Maybe it's choosing between two career paths, ending a relationship, or stepping into a new chapter of life. The fear of making the wrong choice can feel paralyzing, but what if you sat down with a journal and wrote about it? Start by describing the situation honestly. What are you afraid of? What's at stake? Then explore the possible outcomes. What's the worst that could happen? What's the best? And most importantly, what values are guiding your decision? This kind of reflection not only clarifies your thoughts, but also helps you align your actions with your deepest principles. It's a way of turning fear into a roadmap, guiding you toward choices that feel true to who you are. Journaling also offers a unique opportunity to practice gratitude, another key Stoic principle. When we're consumed by fear, it's easy to lose sight of what's going well in our lives. By taking a few moments to write down what we're grateful for, whether it's a supportive friend, a moment of quiet, or even the strength to face a challenge, we shift our focus from what's lacking to what's abundant. This doesn't erase fear, but it puts it in perspective. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Gratitude and reflection woven together create a powerful antidote to fear's grip. The beauty of journaling is its simplicity. You don't need fancy tools or hours of free time, just a notebook and a few quiet moments. It's a practice that meets you where you are, whether you're facing a major life decision or navigating everyday anxieties. And the more you do it, the more you'll notice its impact. Over time, journaling becomes not just a tool for processing fear, but a habit of self-awareness, resilience, and growth. So how could journaling help you face your fears? What if, instead of letting fear swirl in your mind, you gave it a space to breathe on the page? What would you discover about yourself, your values, and your capacity for courage? The Stoics believed that within each of us lies a wellspring of wisdom waiting to be tapped. Journaling is one way to draw from that well, to turn fear from a shadow into a teacher. The next time fear arises, try this ancient practice. Pick up a pen, open your heart, and see where the words take you. You might just find that the answers you've been searching for have been within you all along. What if reflecting on death could help you live more courageously? It might sound counterintuitive, but for the Stoics, the contemplation of death wasn't a morbid exercise. It was a powerful tool for reducing fear and living more fully. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." This idea flips the script on our usual relationship with mortality. Instead of avoiding thoughts of death, the Stoics embrace them as a way to gain perspective, prioritize what truly matters, and face life's uncertainties with courage. At first glance, this practice might seem unsettling. Why would anyone want to think about something as final and inevitable as death? But here's the Stoic insight. When we confront the reality of our mortality, we strip away the distractions and illusions that often fuel our fears. Death, in this sense, becomes a mirror reflecting what's truly important: our values, our relationships, and how we choose to spend the time we have. By acknowledging the impermanence of life, we're reminded to live with intention, to take risks, and to embrace the present moment. It's not about dwelling on the end, it's about making the most of the journey. Take Socrates, for example. When he was sentenced to death by the Athenian court, he faced his fate with remarkable calm. Instead of pleading for his life or trying to escape, he accepted the verdict with grace, using his final moments to reflect on the nature of virtue and the soul. His famous words, "The unexamined life is not worth living," capture the essence of the Stoic approach to death. Socrates didn't fear death because he had lived a life aligned with his principles. His story reminds us that when we live with purpose, the fear of death loses its power to intimidate us. So, how could reflecting on death help you face your fears? Imagine you're grappling with the fear of failure, rejection, or even the unknown. Now, ask yourself, if I knew my time was limited, would this fear still hold the same weight? Would I let it stop me from pursuing what truly matters? This shift in perspective doesn't eliminate fear, but it puts it in its proper place. Fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a reminder, a nudge to live boldly, to take chances, and to focus on what's truly meaningful. The Stoic practice of contemplating death isn't about despair, it's about liberation. It's about freeing ourselves from the anxieties that keep us small and helping us step into the fullness of life. When we remember that our time is finite, we're less likely to waste it on trivial worries or paralyzing fears. Instead, we're inspired to act with courage, to love deeply, and to live with authenticity. So, what would it look like to bring this Stoic wisdom into your own life? How could reflecting on the impermanence of life empower you to face your fears and live more fully? The answer might just change the way you see fear and life itself forever. The Stoics teach us that self-discipline is the antidote to fear. It's not just about willpower or rigid rules, it's about cultivating a sense of inner control that helps us navigate life's uncertainties with clarity and confidence. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it plainly, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This idea cuts to the heart of what self-discipline truly means. It's not about punishing yourself or denying pleasure. It's about aligning your actions with your values, even when fear tries to pull you in another direction. When we act with discipline, we're not just building habits, we're building resilience. Imagine this: you wake up early, even though your bed feels impossibly comfortable. You resist the urge to hit snooze and instead start your day with intention, whether it's through meditation, exercise, or simply taking a few moments to reflect. At first, it might feel like a struggle, but over time, this small act of self-discipline becomes a source of strength. Why? Because every time you choose to act despite discomfort, you're proving to yourself that you're capable of more than fear suggests. This is the power of self-discipline. It doesn't just help you stick to a routine, it helps you trust yourself, and that trust is the foundation of courage. The Stoics believed that self-discipline is a form of freedom. When we let fear dictate our actions, we become slaves to our emotions, but when we act with discipline, we reclaim our autonomy. It's like steering a ship through stormy waters. The waves might still be there, but you're no longer at their mercy. You're in control, and that control gives you the confidence to face whatever comes your way. Think about a time when you pushed through fear to accomplish something. Maybe it was finishing a project, having a difficult conversation, or stepping into a new role. That sense of accomplishment didn't just come from the result, it came from the discipline it took to get there. So, how could self-discipline help you face your fears? Maybe it's the fear of failure that keeps you from starting a new venture, or the fear of rejection that holds you back from pursuing a relationship. What if, instead of waiting for the fear to disappear, you focused on small, disciplined actions that move you forward? Each step, no matter how small, chips away at the fear, replacing doubt with confidence and anxiety with momentum. Self-discipline isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And in that progress, you'll find the courage to face even the biggest fears. This Stoic approach to self-discipline isn't just about overcoming fear, it's about transforming it. When we act with intention and consistency, we shift our relationship with fear. It's no longer something that controls us, it's something we move through, one disciplined step at a time. So, what's one disciplined action you could take today to face your fears? It doesn't have to be grand or dramatic, it just has to be intentional. Because in that intention, you'll find the strength to keep going, even when fear tries to hold you back. What if gratitude could disarm your fears? At first glance, it might seem like an unlikely pairing, gratitude and fear. One feels warm and uplifting, while the other can feel heavy and paralyzing. But the Stoics saw gratitude as a powerful tool for shifting our focus from what we lack to what we have, from what scares us to what grounds us. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This simple reminder invites us to start each day not with dread but with appreciation. And in that appreciation, we find a surprising strength to face our fears. Gratitude works like a mental reset button. When we're consumed by fear, our minds tend to spiral into worst-case scenarios, amplifying what could go wrong. But gratitude pulls us back to the present moment, grounding us in what's real and tangible. Think about it, fear often thrives on the abstract, the what-ifs and maybes, while gratitude anchors us in the concrete. It's hard to feel overwhelmed by fear when you're actively noticing the small, beautiful details of life. The warmth of the sun, the laughter of a friend, or even the quiet comfort of a morning routine. Gratitude doesn't erase fear, but it puts it in perspective, reminding us that even in the midst of uncertainty, there's still so much to appreciate. Take the modern practice of keeping a gratitude journal, for example. It's a simple yet transformative habit. Each day, you write down a few things you're grateful for, big or small. Over time, this practice rewires your brain to notice the good, even when life feels challenging. Studies have shown that people who regularly practice gratitude experience lower levels of stress and anxiety. Why? Because gratitude shifts our focus from what we can't control to what we can. It's not about ignoring fear, it's about balancing it with a sense of abundance and possibility. When we cultivate gratitude, we're not just counting our blessings, we're building resilience. So, how could gratitude help you face your fears? Imagine you're feeling anxious about an upcoming presentation. Instead of focusing on all the ways it could go wrong, you take a moment to reflect on what you're grateful for. The opportunity to share your ideas, the skills you've developed, or even the support of your colleagues. This shift doesn't eliminate the fear, but it changes how you carry it. Fear becomes less of a burden and more of a challenge, one you're equipped to handle because you're grounded in what truly matters. The Stoics believed that gratitude wasn't just a feeling, it was a practice. It's something we choose even when life feels uncertain or difficult. And in that choice, we find a kind of courage, a courage that comes not from ignoring fear, but from embracing the fullness of life. Gratitude reminds us that fear is just one part of the story, and that even in the face of uncertainty, there's always something to hold on to. So, what are you grateful for today? How could that gratitude help you face your fears? The answer might just change the way you see both fear and gratitude, and the role they play in your life. Stoics teach us that resisting change fuels fear. It's a truth as old as time. Life is unpredictable, and the more we fight against its natural ebb and flow, the more we create unnecessary anxiety. Change is inevitable, it's woven into the fabric of existence. The Stoics, drawing from the wisdom of the ancient philosopher Heraclitus, understood this deeply. Heraclitus famously said, "The only constant in life is change." For the Stoics, this wasn't a cause for despair, but an invitation to align ourselves with the rhythms of life. When we stop resisting change and start embracing it, we find that fear loses its grip and new possibilities open up. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. Imagine starting a new job, a situation many of us can relate to. At first, the unfamiliar routines, new colleagues, and different responsibilities might feel overwhelming. It's natural to fear the unknown, to worry about whether you'll fit in or succeed. But what if, instead of focusing on what could go wrong, you approach this change with curiosity and openness? What if you saw it as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to discover strength you didn't know you had? This is the Stoic approach, not to avoid change but to meet it with courage and adaptability. When we shift our mindset in this way, we transform fear into fuel for growth. The Stoics believed that fear often arises from our attachment to the familiar. We cling to what we know because it feels safe, even when it no longer serves us. But life has a way of shaking things up whether we're ready or not. Instead of viewing change as a disruption, the Stoics saw it as a natural part of life, a chance to practice virtues like resilience, flexibility, and acceptance. By embracing change, we don't just reduce anxiety, we cultivate a deeper sense of peace and confidence. We learn to trust ourselves, knowing that no matter what happens, we have the tools to adapt and thrive. So, how could embracing change help you face your fears? Maybe it's the fear of leaving a comfortable but stagnant situation, or the anxiety of stepping into a new role or relationship. What if, instead of resisting these shifts, you welcome them as opportunities? What if you saw change not as a threat but as a teacher, guiding you toward growth and self-discovery? The Stoic approach invites us to see life as a series of transitions, each one offering a chance to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. This isn't about ignoring the discomfort that change can bring. It's about reframing that discomfort as a sign that you're stepping outside your comfort zone, a place where real growth happens. When we stop fearing change and start embracing it, we open ourselves to a life of greater freedom, resilience, and possibility. So, the next time you feel the pull of fear in the face of change, ask yourself, what if this is exactly what I need? What if this shift is leading me towards something I can't yet imagine? The answer might just change the way you see change and yourself forever. What if silence could help you hear your fears more clearly? In a world that's constantly buzzing with noise, whether it's the ping of notifications, the chatter of daily life, or the endless stream of thoughts in our heads, silence can feel like a rare gift. But for the Stoics, silence wasn't just a break from the noise, it was a profound practice for confronting fear. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." These words remind us that life itself can be overwhelming, and sometimes the bravest thing we can do is step back, quiet our minds, and listen. Silence has a unique power to cut through the chaos. When we retreat from distractions, even for a short time, we create space to process our fears without the interference of external noise. Think about it. Fear often feels loud and urgent, but when we sit with it in silence, it begins to lose its intensity. It's like turning down the volume on a blaring radio. Suddenly, we can hear the subtler, more meaningful messages beneath the surface. Silence allows us to observe our fears without judgment, to understand where they come from, and to decide how we want to respond. It's not about erasing fear, it's about facing it with clarity and calm. Consider the modern practice of a digital detox. In a world where we're constantly connected, taking a break from screens and social media can feel like stepping into a different reality. But what if that break wasn't just about unplugging? It was about reconnecting with yourself. A digital detox creates the kind of silence that lets you step back from the noise of comparison, competition, and constant updates. In that quiet, you might discover that some of your fears are fueled by external pressures rather than your own values. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting what's truly important and helping you align your actions with your deepest principles. So, how could silence help you face your fears? Imagine setting aside just 10 minutes a day to sit in stillness, free from distractions. What would you hear in that quiet? Maybe it's the fear of not being good enough, the anxiety of what others think, or the uncertainty of what's next. By giving yourself the gift of silence, you create a space to listen to those fears without letting them take over. You might even discover that some of those fears don't hold as much power as you thought. Silence doesn't just help us confront fear, it helps us understand it. And in that understanding, we find the clarity to move forward. The Stoics believed that silence was a form of courage. It takes strength to sit with our fears rather than distract ourselves from them. But in that stillness, we also find peace. Silence reminds us that we don't have to be ruled by fear, that we have the power to observe it, learn from it, and choose how we respond. So, what would it look like to bring more silence into your life? How could those quiet moments help you face your fears with greater clarity and courage? The answer might just lie in the stillness, waiting for you to listen. Stoics teach us that true freedom comes from mastering our fears. This might sound paradoxical at first. How can facing fear lead to freedom? But the Stoics saw fear not as a prison but as a gatekeeper, standing between us and the life we're meant to live. Inner freedom, in the Stoic sense, isn't about escaping fear, it's about transcending it. It's about realizing that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. As Epictetus once said, "Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems." In other words, fear often grows from the stories we tell ourselves, not from the reality we face. When we learn to separate the two, we find a kind of freedom that fear can't touch. Consider Epictetus's own life. Born into slavery, he faced unimaginable hardships, yet he emerged as one of history's most influential philosophers. How? By cultivating inner freedom. Even as a slave, he understood that his circumstances didn't define him, his mind did. He couldn't control the chains around his body, but he could control the thoughts within it. This realization didn't just help him endure, it allowed him to thrive, turning his suffering into wisdom and his fear into courage. His story is a powerful reminder that inner freedom isn't about external conditions, it's about the choices we make within them. It's about realizing that no matter how daunting life feels, we always have the power to choose how we respond. So, what does inner freedom look like in practice? Imagine you're facing a fear of public speaking. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind fills with worst-case scenarios. Inner freedom doesn't mean those feelings disappear. It means you don't let them dictate your actions. You step onto the stage anyway, not because you're fearless, but because you've mastered the fear. You've learned to see it for what it is, a temporary discomfort, not a permanent limitation. This is the essence of Stoic courage, acting with clarity and purpose even when fear tries to pull you back. But how do we cultivate this kind of freedom? It starts with awareness. When fear arises, pause and ask yourself, is this fear based on facts or is it fueled by my imagination? Often, we'll find that our anxieties are rooted in stories we've created, not in the reality before us. By shining a light on those stories, we begin to loosen their grip. We realize that fear, like a shadow, loses its power when we stop running from it and start facing it. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but with practice it becomes a habit, a way of living that transforms fear from a barrier into a bridge. So, how could inner freedom help you face your fears? What would it look like to approach your challenges not with dread, but with the confidence that comes from knowing you're in control of your mind? Imagine the possibilities: a career change that once felt impossible, a relationship that once felt too vulnerable, or a dream that once felt too big. Inner freedom doesn't promise to eliminate fear, but it gives us the tools to move through it with grace and strength. It's a reminder that true freedom isn't about escaping life's challenges, it's about embracing them as opportunities to grow. And in that embrace, we find not just courage, but a deeper, more meaningful kind of freedom, one that fear can never take away. As we come to the end of this exploration into facing fear with Stoic courage, let's take a moment to reflect on the timeless principles we've uncovered. Detachment teaches us to observe our fears without letting them consume us. Resilience shows us how to grow stronger through adversity. Presence anchors us in the here and now, and virtue gives us a compass to navigate life's challenges with integrity. Together, these tools form a powerful framework for transforming fear from a paralyzing force into a source of growth and empowerment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This profound reminder invites us to consider how our thoughts shape our reality, and how, by choosing courage over fear, we can color our lives with purpose and strength. Fear, as we've seen, isn't something to avoid or conquer. It's a teacher, a mirror, and a guide pointing us toward what truly matters and challenging us to grow. Whether it's the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown, each fear holds a lesson, an opportunity to practice acceptance, resilience, and self-mastery. The Stoic approach doesn't promise to eliminate fear, but it does offer us the tools to face it with clarity and courage. It's not about being fearless, it's about being brave enough to take the next step, even when fear is whispering in your ear. So, what's next for you? How will you take these Stoic principles and apply them to your own life? Maybe it's starting a journal to reflect on your fears, practicing gratitude to shift your perspective, or simply taking a moment each day to breathe and reconnect with the present. Whatever it is, remember that facing fear isn't a one-time event, it's a practice, a journey of continuous growth and self-discovery. The Stoics remind us that every challenge, every fear, is an invitation to become the best version of ourselves. As we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. How has this exploration of Stoic courage resonated with your own experiences? What fears are you ready to face, and how will you approach them with these principles in mind? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey might inspire someone else to take their first step. And if you found value in this video, consider subscribing for more insights into living with Stoic wisdom. Together, let's continue this journey of growth, courage, and self-mastery. Until next time, remember, fear isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. Embrace it, learn from it, and let it guide you toward a life of deeper meaning and purpose.